Spoke with that lawyer tonight, and impactful is the word he used when speaking about this video and how it spoke with that lawyer. Tonight, and impactful is the word he used when speaking about this video and how it helped to get this multi-million-dollar settlement. He says it's one thing to hear an attorney talking about how his client has been harmed, but it's another thing to see it with your own eyes.
All you have to do is press play, and the horrific scene speaks for itself.
Almost a year and a half after this footage was made public showing a gladiator-style fight inside Downey's Los Padrinos Juvenile Hall, LA County has reached a $2.7 million settlement with the young man at the center of the beating.
Today's settlement is a...
That's one terrific scene. LA Juvenile Hall, as bad as they may be out here in the Inland Empire, it is a complete dumpster fire. Fight clubs, that is absolutely horrific scene going on there. Just cost LA residents about $3 million. High-speed rail, Trump's cutting $4 million from the Fed funds, $4 billion, I should say, from the Fed funds. We're still trying to dump more money down this project. Here's the report.
California high-speed rail project may soon lose billions of dollars in federal funding. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy released the department's report following an investigation into the high-speed rail project. The report says the project is in default of the term of its federal grant awards and says the high-speed rail authority lacks capacity to deliver the early operating segment by the year 2033.
That's what? Almost 20 years.
$1 million settlement. He says it's one thing to hear an attorney talking about how his client has been harmed, but it's another thing to see it with your own eyes.
All you have to do is press play, and the horrific scene speaks for itself.
Almost a year and a half after this footage was made public showing a gladiator-style fight inside Downey's Los Padrinos Juvenile Hall, LA County has reached a $2.7 million settlement with the young man at the center of the beating.
Today's settlement is a...
That's one terrific scene. LA Juvenile Hall, as bad as they may be out here in the Inland Empire, it is a complete dumpster fire. Fight clubs, that is absolutely horrific scene going on there. Just cost LA residents about $3 million. High-speed rail, Trump's cutting $4 million from the Fed funds, $4 billion, I should say, from the Fed funds. We're still trying to dump more money down this project. Here's the report.
California high-speed rail project may soon lose billions of dollars in federal funding. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy released the department's report following an investigation into the high-speed rail project. The report says the project is in default of the term of its federal grant awards and says the high-speed rail authority lacks capacity to deliver the early operating segment by the year 2033.
That's what? Almost 20 years after it was supposed to be fully completed, they won't even have a segment done, and the projections keep moving farther and farther into the future. The biggest money pit in the history of the world, high-speed rail in California. On top of that, Brian Jones puts out, state gas taxes will increase to 61 cents, I believe on July 1st. Also, the 65 cent a gas tax hike on gas will hit. On top of that, you might see prices rise $1 a gallon in the next month or two in California. Lord help us all. Upside down CHP car in OC on the 91. Horrific looking scene there. We'll have an update later on in the show on that. Here's another one. We'll have the videotape on this. Young lady, dad gives her a fire extinguisher. She won the 400 meters up the state championships up in California. Dad gives her a fire extinguisher. He says, "You're on fire," puts her the fire extinguisher on her feet. CIF is suspending her or not giving her a medal or some darn thing. Holy, this state is going absolutely insane. Arrests made in the Palm Springs bombing. Besides the bombing attacker, a man who gave some of the ingredients to make the bomb was also arrested. Here's Bill Asaley, U.S. Attorney from California.
Destroyed the clinic's building and damaged surrounding buildings and areas, causing a debris field of approximately 250 yards in size. During the investigation, law enforcement learned of Barkis's pro-mortalist, anti-natalist, and anti-pro-life extremist ideology. We also learned that the bomber had help. Mr. Park, who shares Barkis's extremist beliefs, is accused of shipping approximately 180 pounds of ammonium nitrate, an explosive precursor commonly used to construct homemade bombs, to Barkis.
This is absolutely stunning. From Washington down to 29 Palms to bombing the Palm Springs Fertility Clinic. Again, we will have more than that. You want to talk about S-talkers? Democratic National Convention, Tampon Timmy, Pencil Neck Schiff, and I don't know if the guy's high or just stupid, but Hakeem Jeffries. Here's a short clip from KTLA 5.
Show started. There's two things that motivate Trump: cruelty and corruption.
California does not cower, not now, not ever. We say to police, you can go yourself.
Will you stand up to Donald Trump?
So yes, you heard Schiff say F the police. I hope you California and national Democrats, Democrats should be asking for Schiff to resign over that one, just on the principle. You imagine the hue and cry if Trump would have said anything close to that, not that he wouldn't even be inclined to. This guy gets elected U.S. Senator. Absolutely unbelievable. Lightning struck a house in Hemet. Earthquake just south of Idlewild. Lots of more local genre coming up. Plus, Susan Shelley should call in at 5:30, as she usually does. And we will get to the rest of the show. That funky slide guitar music. It comes on every Monday through Friday, live 5 or close to it. Evil IP Network, Rumble X, YouTube on the Roy Bleckert channel. Coming up, man, I've had about a week and a half. This goes in about stretches. I'll go 2 or 3 months, all the electronics will work great. And then it'll go like a 2 or 3 week period where everything just wants to go totally flipping haywire. Yesterday, we had the power outage, knocked the net off, and had to come on, restart everything, which is always fun. Anyway, lots of good news, some bad news. What do you think of the highway patrol car flipped over in the 91? It'll be interesting to see what the report comes out on that. The big S-talkers down there at the Democratic Party, Tampon Timmy, Hakeem Jeffries, and Pencil Neck Schiff. I want to hear how all the, white hillbilly mean, uncouth Republicans and all that stuff. The one with the young lady who won the 400 meters in the track meet. And her dad, they must have this set up because the dad had the fire extinguisher on their hands it to the kid. I guess somebody else had done this at the Olympics or something. And she takes a fire extinguisher, says, "You're hot. You know, your feet are too hot," or whatever, because she blistered the time up there. And she put a fire extinguisher and, you know, made a show on her feet. And the CIF's coming down on her. We'll have the more tape on that. But along with the boy and the girls sports from the IE in the long jump competition, we have to endure with this sort of noise. I don't know. Things that make you go, More interesting developments, as you heard Bilasali say, there's another arrest for a dude who supposedly or allegedly gave some of the ingredients to the 29 Palms bomber on the Palm Springs Fertility Clinic. Son of a gun. The high-speed rail. Trump's going to pull. They're setting up. Sean Duffy, the transportation secretary, set it up and said, "Hey, we're done. We'll give you one shot to get this stuff on." Susan Shelley, the gas, water heater, and heating device ban that's coming up, starting with the hearings at AQMD tomorrow. We'll talk with Susan Shelley about that and other things on the horizon. But I want to, let's start with this. We hit a little bit of it. Brian Jones, he will be retiring, term limited out, forced retirement. He's a state senator from down the San Diego way. And now that might be a contested seat. Hopefully it won't be if people start getting their act together. But he put this up on July 1st, drivers will get hit twice. State gas taxes will increase to 61.2 cents. Newsom's 65-cent gas price hike will take effect. 2 price hikes, 1 day, 0 relief. Californians can't afford to keep paying for these insane policies that seem to crop up every day. Fix California. Fix? I don't know what the deal is, but we definitely we need to take a sledgehammer to everything that's going on. Depriving a girl of her medals she won in the 400-meter track meet because she copied an Olympic stunt of putting, taking the fire extinguisher out. My feet are so hot, I ran so fast. To this assault, I mean, vaya caramba. Makes you want to think, makes you want to, maybe it's a good thing I wear the foghorn leghorn hat. Makes you want to grab the kid by the throat and said, "Pay attention, boy. Your state's going down the toilet. You hear me, son? Bap." Watch the old foghorn leghorn cartoons. They should be out there. We can't take much more of this. 60 cents a gallon, 65 cents a gallon increase. I'm telling you, it's beyond flippin' insane. They stopped the potential Republican bill that was put out by Miss Macedo to study the impacts of this. 4 Democratic senators just before on Monday were railing. Jasmine Baines is one. She called for Lanny Randolph, the CARB head of California Air Resources Board, who proffered the 65-cent a gallon gas tax hike. No vote for the legislature. She said Lanny Randolph of CARB should resign. So when this came up on Tuesday, I believe, it's the next day, when this bill came up to just before any of these regulations can go into effect, that the legislature has to be made aware of them, and the cost analysis has to be reviewed. How did Jasmine Baines vote on that? Oh, no, we can't do that. Then, Jasmine, girl, you were lying through your teeth when you called for her to resign, because that's what we're talking about. That bill put forth by your colleague Mancito would have done just that. We would have had a cost analysis of what the effect of that CARB action was that will raise gas prices substantially in California here in about less than a month. But you voted no. So quit the caterwauling up there on the Senate floor, the grandstanding, if you're not going to follow through. Next one is a Democrat who was making noise about this was Connie Norris. Same thing. Oh, well, we got to take a look at that. Californians can't handle this. Gas prices are too damn high. She votes against or not voting. All 4 of them either voted no or didn't vote on Mancito's Assembly bill. Just to look at the cost benefit or the cost or benefits analysis of these bills and regulations as they come through. It's absolutely the two-facedness of these guys and gals up there in the legislature, especially the Democrats, since they own 75 of both houses and all the statewide run offices, is they don't care. They know they're going to get to do what they want to do, and that bill would have had to pass by 2/3. They didn't even get 1/3. Republicans couldn't even mount enough votes to get half of this in. They would have had to carry almost or close to, or maybe a little bit more, than half the Democratic legislature to get it through. Yet not one of them would vote for it or did not vote, which means they sided with the majority. So de facto, they voted against it, all 60 members. Only 39 of them, I believe, vote. 21 of them ducked it because they were saying, well, I didn't vote on that. Well, yes, you did, because you had a chance to. You didn't, so that means you agreed with the majority. David Alvarez is another one that was spouting off how, oh, this is just a crime. California, how could we do this to our residents who are trying to get to work and can't afford groceries, can't pay the mortgage, can't afford homeowners or car insurance? How can we get these refineries back so we can maybe get a little relief on the gas? Well, yeah, duh. Then why didn't you vote for the bill? Why didn't you vote for the Mancito Amendment, David Alvarez? Holy bejesus. And the last one on this gnarly hit parade is Mike Gibson. Save us your sanctimonious speeches, your incoherent babblings to the news media or at your press conferences, your $200 haircuts and $1,500 suits, when you're lying to us up at the state legislature. Just can it. We have a record of your vote, Gibson, Norris, Alvarez, and Baines. It's time to step up to the plate. It's like this one. Sean Duffy of the Trump administration sent a letter to the California legislature, said, hey, we're done. The $4 billion that you thought you were getting from the federal government. Mind you, this was done, the $4 billion was approved during the Obama years in 2015, I believe. And the reason you're going from Wasco to Merced, which is right up the 99 corridor, just out of Bakersfield and just past Fresno, is because the Obama administration said, well, you got to build that leg because there's people in the Central Valley that have asthma and, you know, the insanity. I don't know, we dumped, what, $20 billion into this stupid train. It hasn't went anywhere. No track's done. It was supposed to be done. It's supposed to be completed by 2020. There are no tracks laid. They got a couple bridges done up there. That's it. Here's the KCRA3 report from the great Ashley Zavala. Here we go.
The state has been struggling to complete this first part of the bullet train project that was promised to take riders from LA to San Francisco.
Let's check in with KCRA3 correspondent Ashley Zavala, the first to break the story this morning. She joins us now with the update, and it got more expensive.
Apparently, Golston, in 2008, California voters were pitched this high-speed rail project that could take them from San Francisco to Los Angeles for $40 billion. For about that amount, according to the latest update, they'll get Bakersfield to Merced.
Not really. It will just be, mind you, Wasco is 15 miles out of Bakersfield. So even if you're one of the about 500,000 in Bakersfield, you're either going to have to get in a bus, Uber, ride your bicycle, ha ha ha. That'll take you about an hour and a half. You ride about 10 miles an hour. To Wasco, where about the only, the main industry in Wasco is a state prison. $40 billion, we might, and they can't even make that. For a project that was supposed to go directly from Los Angeles to San Francisco and was supposed to be done 5 years ago in 2020. More from Ash.
Now, this possible bigger price tag was part of a project update provided to some legislative consultants late last week, and we were the first to obtain those documents and report this today. Those documents show the California High-Speed Rail is now expecting the cost for just that Central Valley segment to range between $34.9 billion in the best case scenario and up to $38.5 billion. The cost estimate for the Central Valley track has increased year to year, we should note.
38. $38 billion for that segment between Wasco and Merced. You could almost double that. By the if by the slight chance that they ever do get that done, it will be upwards of $75 billion just for that. Mind you, we were supposed to have the whole thing done by 2020 for $40 billion. We should be riding. We should have been 5 years. Hell, we should have been saying, this thing's kind of boring. Or, we're replacing this. This bullet train's kind of slow. More from the Ash Report.
Project leaders are warning inflation and the rising cost of materials are part of the reason for the possible increased costs that they're bracing for. With that, the $38.5 billion figure means the project also faces a budget gap of now up to $10.2 billion.
Let's first deal with construction costs. In the last 7 years, construction costs have doubled in the state of California. Go look at your school districts. They've been going up at an annual rate of 10%. So if you use the rule of 78, you divide the 10 or you divide 78 by 10, and that's simple math. Every 7.8 years, prices will double. So if they're saying 34 to 38, and let's just take their numbers as gospel, and they're saying by 2035, that segment from Wasco to Merced will be done. By their number, and let's say their number is completely accurate, the 34 to 38. That'd be $68 to $76 billion if they got it done by 2035. At the current rate, the construction costs are going up in California. Mind you, you will probably not hear this reported on any other show but this one. So we have a little bit of experience in the construction industry. So their estimate and the current estimate at the way they're going, the final price tag, like I said, is going to be upwards of $75 billion, provided they get it done by 2035, which is almost as certain as anything that I've ever been able to say is almost never in the cards, cannot happen. More from the Ash Report.
Money that the state has yet to nail down for this Central Valley segment. We caught up with State Senator Tony Strickland. He's the Republican Vice Chairman of the Senate's Transportation Committee.
I think it's time that we have a serious discussion in this building about discontinuing this project. Right now, up until this point, no one's had that serious conversation. We need to have it. Even Katie Porter, the Democrat running for governor, has said we need to be honest with the people of California. This is not a partisan issue. This is a fact of the matter is we're wasting hardworking families hard-earned dollars at a time that we can't afford it.
So, when Psycho Chick, Katie Porter, is saying, hey, we got to be honest with the California people that this thing ain't going to fly. Every dollar they put into this project right now is just another dollar flushed down the toilet. We've almost flushed $20 billion down the toilet on this project. Mind you, that could build what? 100 new miles? No. Maybe 200 new miles of new freeway in California. No, not that we don't need, not that the traffic is so great that we could afford, We don't need to build any more highways because traffic is, man, you can go down the grade from Moreno Valley down into Riverside and be there as usual in 10 minutes. Ha ha ha. That little 7-mile jaunt will take you about 30 minutes most of the day, unless it's like 2 o'clock in the morning. Or from the Ash Report.
Senator Strickland there referring to Katie Porter again as a Democratic candidate for governor. Meanwhile, current Governor Gavin Newsom is proposing to put another $1 billion toward this project in the upcoming budget year, but the High-Speed Rail Authority says that would put the state in a, quote, strong position to complete the full 171-mile track between Merced and Bakersfield.
Okay, well, we know the Trump administration actually has been doing an investigation into the state's use of some of that money. So we know that's in motion. So any late.
I can update you on that. Yeah. They were probably after hours. They're probably sitting in the White House residence, probably Sean Duffy, J.D. Vance, probably Stephen Miller. Maybe they have a beer or so out there. Well, Trump doesn't drink. Diet Coke, I think, is his deal. I bet she's out there. I bet you, yeah, their investigation, they can't stop laughing. They're probably still laughing today. They didn't have to do any investigating. Anybody with 2 cents. You didn't have to do an investigation to see this was the world's biggest con project in the history of the world. Let's finish up with the report.
Update on that?
No, not yet. We did reach out to the Trump administration for comment on this latest update, but nothing so far from them. The Department of Transportation has been auditing $4 billion in federal funds used for the project. California taxpayers so far have spent $14 billion. And not to throw too many numbers at you, but the overall price tag for LA to San Francisco at the moment is an estimated more than $100 billion. Project leaders are expected to give a full update on cost and timelines at some point this summer.
So I can update you on why Ash didn't get a report back from the Trump administration, because they haven't stopped laughing yet. The auditors, investigators are looking at the paperwork and saying, they're rechecking it because it's so, the corruption, the thievery, the dishonesty, the deceit is so freaking far off the charts, completely off the charts, that you're having to recheck the numbers because they can't believe it. This makes the Defense Department and the $950,000 toilets and things, it pales into comparison. And probably one of the biggest wasters of tax dollars has been the U.S. Department of Defense. A story for a different day, but we've had the stories for centuries. This project takes the cake by a mile, by 20 million miles. Like I said, I mean, Foghorn Leghorn should be grabbing Newsom, Baines, David Alvarez, whomever, by the throat, saying, "You understand me, boy? We're not wasting any more California taxpayers' dollars. They can't afford it anymore. You hear me, son?" I'm a bad voice impersonator, but that's my best Foghorn Leghorn impression. This is another stunning story. The second story coming out of the California track meet is almost, or maybe as stupid as the Jurupa Valley boy who's winning the gold medals in the high jump and the long jump at the state championships. And the duel, the girl and the boy taking first place, and the whole fiasco's been going on with that. The second one that just broke today is they're disqualifying the winner of the 400 meters, the young lady who won that, because I guess somewhere, Olympian, he ran a race, got a fire extinguisher out and sprayed it on his feet, because my feet are too hot, I ran so fast. Prank, everybody, ha, ha, ha. They disqualified a young lady at the California track meet because she did the same thing. There's her dad. I guess they probably had this set up. She probably wanted to do it. She wins. He gives her the fire extinguisher. She does the prank. CIF, California Interscholastic Federation, the head dudes on California school sports, are disqualifying her. It's KTLA5 report.
From the podium at a potentially history-making race for her victory celebration. Video shows Adams taking first place in the 400-meter final on Saturday in Clovis. The North Salinas High sophomore says she waited until her opponents were off the track, and then her dad handed her a fire extinguisher. She proceeded to spray her shoes, recreating an iconic moment from 2004 when the track champion Maurice Green did the same thing. But Adams says state officials immediately stripped her of her win and banned her from competing in the 200-meter race, which she was a favorite to win. The California Interscholastic Federation, the CIF, has not publicly commented.
I'm telling you, my head is going to freaking explode. They disqualified her from the 200-meter race, which she would have probably won. Over that, over doing something an Olympian had done. I don't know. I don't know how that dad didn't grab every one of those clowns at the CIF and beat the living tar out of them. Not that I want to incite violence or encourage anybody to do that, but I don't know how he showed the restraint in not doing that. We've gone absolutely, totally, 1,000% bonkers insane in the state of California. Hands down, no reason. There's no reason for this. Nobody was around. Nobody was in any danger. Nobody was sniffing any chemical that might have come from the fire extinguisher or whatever. She didn't spray somebody else. She didn't spray it in the audience. She just copied. Probably, maybe that was her hero or something, the Olympian, or thought that was cool. I mean, if I was a dad, I'd do that. Yeah, this is cool. Most insane, improbable, idiotic, insanity on top of the whole Harupa Valley track deal. Now we have this. And then if you're going to disqualify that young lady for running in the 200 meters, then give us a reason why. What is your reasoning behind that? I would really like to know. Completely nuts. One of the very many projects, concepts that I brought to you many times is nuclear power and natural gas. Well, maybe we'll get into it a little bit more, but Zuck the Cluck just invested in another nuclear power plant because they're going to need electricity to run AI, and your cleanest, cheapest 24-hour source of energy, electricity, is nuclear power. Next on the line is natural gas-fired generators. On top of that, cooking and heating of your house by natural gas. So maybe tomorrow we'll get into more of the nuclear power and Meta investing in that, and Amazon and all these other companies that are, I think, Elon. And like I said, we should be building nuclear power plants from San Diego to Seattle, Washington. We should have never stopped in the 70s when we built San Onofre and then Diablo. We closed San Onofre down. They were slated to close Diablo down, but Newsom got in a panic because they said, if you do that, the grid's going to blow. We're going to have rolling blackouts every summer. The next they're going to attack is natural gas. Tomorrow is starting the hearing, so you can get your emails in. I don't know when the public comment section, I think it's going on today or Thursday and Friday. But it's California Air Resources Board. They're down in Diamond Bar if you want to go in person. They have a Zoom meeting. They're going to try to bring back the gas heater ban. Gas water heaters and natural gas heaters that heat your home. Mind you, it will take about the average house. It will take about $6,000 to $10,000 to retrofit your electric system to run a gas water heater. I mean, an electric water heater. On top of the cost, and probably double the cost. The ridiculous cost of a California gas water heater is about $600 or $700. Electric one about $1,500, more than double. Plus on that, it's going to cost you roughly $10,000 to $15,000 when your water heater goes out, if they pass this bill. On top of that, they want to ban natural gas from heating your home. On top of that, the cost going up. I would say your gas versus electric bill may go from would probably double. So if you're spending $50 a month on gas running your water heater during the wintertime especially, you might go up to $100. That won't be as bad as the retrofit. But if you try to heat the average home, let's say the average home's about 2,000 square feet in California. If you want to keep your home warm in the winter, I kid you not, at the price of electricity, I kid you not, it's going to cost you about $4,000 to $6,000 a month during the winter to heat your home on electricity. On top of that, they want to get rid of the gas-fired generators, which we get about 40% of our electric generators that run the grid and plug in your computers and do all that stuff and maybe charge your electric car burns fossil fuels. Maybe it doesn't have an exhaust pipe. That charging electricity is being run by a coal plant, a natural gas plant. The only one that it isn't is a nuclear power plant if they're getting it off of the grid off Diablo. Here's Alan Armstrong on CNBC. He's one of the bigwigs invested, delivering natural gas back east. Here we go.
I would just say that the facts of high utility prices and actually higher emissions, because we're having to turn to things like fuel oil and coal in those markets, those facts are really starting to overwhelm the politics, frankly, of climate policies that have been focused on eliminating the access to low-cost natural gas, which, you know, from our perspective is a little bit short-sighted, given that natural gas in those markets actually lowers emissions and pretty dramatically. And we're seeing that those facts are coming through, and as well, a lot.
So this is, as we say, why static analysis kills you 98.7% of the time. So what South Coast Air Quality Management or California Air Resources Board, when they're talking about the gas increase and all that, they just take one. Okay, if we eliminate all the gas-fired generators, or we eliminate all gas water heaters, oh, the pollution will drop by that. No, it won't. Because now this is how it gets more efficient. Instead of, just one example, instead of most people in California, either San Diego Gas and Electric or Southern California Gas, the largest natural gas supplier, deliverer in the world, instead of them, somebody drilling natural gas well, put it in a pipeline, send it out down the pipelines to your home, runs your gas water heater, your gas stove, your gas central air for heating, boom. So let's say we go to this all electric. So now you're going to have a gas, you're going to have to increase gas-fired generators or coal-fired generators or nuclear plants or something, because solar ain't going to cut it. There's no way we're going to run this all on solar panels, and there's a whole different dynamic of environmental damage and all that stuff with that. So they don't take into account of how less efficient, because it's going to go from a gas-fired electric generator down the electric grid and then convert it into, which is going to be a lot less efficient. You have more line loss. You hardly have any loss in a natural gas pipeline. You lose 20 to 30% of the electricity from wherever it comes to the generating plant by the time it gets to your home. This, and the reason, not taking into account all the other factors that are going into. More from the report.
A lot of economic development is now hinging on whether or not states have access to low-cost natural gas, and we're seeing that in a very strong manner. In fact, the New York ISO itself came out here last week in their Power Trends report and calling on the need for more natural gas in that market and more power generation, because they have 4.4 gigawatts of requests for incremental power generation in those markets.
So in order to grow economically, you're going to have more natural gas. California has not only banned any new gas or oil exploration, we want to get rid of the existing natural gas or oil wells we already have. New York, for Christ's sakes, is saying, hey, ISO, independent service operator, that's the guys that run the grids for electricity all across the United States, are saying, hey, we need more. If we're going to evolve, if AI is going to take off, if we are going to have electric cars or electric water heaters or anything, we need natural gas. We need to start pumping it. Drill, baby, drill, is what the New York ISO operator is saying.
So it's not just for replacing fuel oil in those markets like our Nessie project would do, but it's also providing natural gas for power generation that's desperately needed to back up and make sure that there's adequate power to drive economic development in those regions.
Yeah, our viewers.
to make sure we have adequate power generation for economic development, for sustainability, for quality of life. So you know what? When you flip on the light switch, the lights actually come on. So your refrigerator runs 24/7, 365 and keeps your food cold so you don't get diseases. Again, all the things. That's another thing. They don't take the cost-benefit analysis. You kill the electric grid or you don't have enough electric power. Why don't you go ask Germany how this worked out for them? They banned nuclear power. Damn near got people starving to death, freezing in the winter, buying power or coal from Russia now to fire up their old coal plants because they need electricity. There's no way in hell. There's no possible way in hell that we can survive the idiocracy that's been going on 9,437 times on this, more from the CNBC report.
They're starting to get familiar with what a gigawatt is worth and what it means to overall activity. Will you have to make changes to any kind of prior efforts?
Sure. We will certainly work with the state of New York. I will tell you that, last time around, the projects from our perspective were very much just driven by pure politics. There was nothing environmentally damaging about the projects that we were doing. We always do our projects in a way that protects the environment as much as possible. But
what he's saying is the phony climate change, idiocracy, mob mentality, we're all going to die of diesel smoke, is pure hogwash to the nth degree. And there will be absolutely zero good, only destruction to come from what they are proposing at the California Air Resources Board. Again, tomorrow, the hearings start Thursday, 9 o'clock. It's down in Diamond Bar, California Air Resources Board, Southern California Air Quality Management District. Get your emails in. I'm pretty sure there's a comment period. I think you can do it by Zoom if you can't show up in person. We stopped this with almost 14,000 emails. They brought it back. They're trying to redo it. It's time we stop this sort of absolute dingbat idiocracy, because if we don't, we're going to be at a point where you're going to flip on that light switch.
30 seconds.
That's about all we got to have left if they kill the electric grid like they're trying to do tomorrow at the South Coast Air Quality Management Desk, Jesse. You should get an email in.
Uh-oh.
And tell them not to do that. Else you're not going to be able to watch your movies on Netflix because there won't be no electricity to run.
And I will rage. Here we go. 2 seconds.
Day. IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Those expressed are those of the program producer.
funky slide guitar music that comes in every Monday through Friday live at 5:30 on the Mighty Met 1490 AM, broadcasting all over the Inland Empire and the aforementioned AM band. Join a vast video audience, the Evil P Network, X, Rumble, YouTube on the Roy Bleckert channel. On that, man, oh man, Trump's cutting off the $4 billion in bullet train funds. The Tutti Fruities are panicking. Gas prices slated to go up 65 cents a gallon plus on July 1st. The disingenuous Democrats that were hollering about this, when it come time to vote, let's do some cost analysis before we pass this stuff, voted no. That was Baines, Alvarez, Norris, and Gibson. We got to stop the hypocrisy. And just the lying snakes. They're trying to ban natural gas, water heaters, stoves, heating your home. And I'm going to tell you, if you got to heat the average 2,000 square foot home on electricity, it's going to cost you about $2,000 to $3,000 a month in the winter. And that's no joke. On top of the amount of the tens of thousands of dollars you're going to have to redo the electric grid in your home to run this stuff. On top of that, if we don't build nuclear power plants, get back to drill, baby, drill on oil and natural gas, as you heard before, the economy as we know it is over. Your lifestyle as you know it is over. These things are critical. On top of that, besides the fiasco of the tranny from Harupa Valley that was winning the long jump, the boy that was beating the girls, the girl that won the 400 meters did a prank. Her dad gave her a fire extinguisher. Yeah, it was a deal from somebody at the Olympics that done this. Runs it on her feet. Oh yeah, my feet are on fire. I ran so fast. They disqualified her from running in the 200 meters, which she'd have probably won too. This is the absolute insane policies we have going on in California. I mean, it is off the charts. Off the charts. Stupid. Lightning hit a Hemet home. Eddie George was on the scene on that. We'll have some coverage on that a little bit later. On top with the CHP car flipped over. More stuff of that. But as we usually do on a Wednesday, we have the famed editorial writer, columnist for the Press Enterprise, San Bernardino Sun, Inland Daily Bulletin, Redlands Daily Facts, more important to me, Vice President of Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, Susan Shelley. Welcome to iNewsWire with Roy.
Thank you, Roy. Great to be with you.
Some of the insane stuff that's going on in California, but we had the state track championships of the boy from Harupa Valley that was, won the long jump, and we've had all that. On top of that, the thing that broke today was one young lady won the 400 meters, and I'm sure she had this set up because her dad had a fire extinguisher. I guess some Olympian had done this. She runs, nobody's around. Dad hands her the fire extinguisher. She sprays it on her feet like my feet are too hot. That's why I won. The California Interscholastic Federation, which runs the California sports, disqualified her from the 200 meters because she did that. And now we're getting no explanation.
Well, they're going to have to reverse that ruling. That's just horrible. What's wrong with them?
Yes. I mean, on top of the whole nuts about what's been going on in girls' sports. Mm-hmm. There was nobody around. She did that. All the other runners are down. How they usually, if you win, you kind of walk around or, celebrate, da-da-da-da-da. You won the race. So, she walks by, grabs the fire. Dad stands up, hands her the fire extinguisher. She walks out in the middle of the track, nobody around, does the thing, probably thought it was cool. So some, dude Olympian, as they said, had done this years ago. She probably thought it was cool. Maybe that's her hero. I don't know. Whatever. Cool. They want to take, Susan, why don't they just come out and ban fun enjoyment out of society? We're all just going to be a bunch of monks, mind-numb robots, Susan.
Well, you're so right. It's just, it's inexplicable. Do they have a rule against celebrating? Is there something that she knew that she wasn't supposed to do? Had they warned her before? The whole thing makes no sense. So she celebrated. So her dad was with her and she was happy. And that's something everyone should celebrate. There's a lot of hard work that goes into a victory like that. It doesn't just come out of a cereal box in the morning. It's not a lottery ticket, find luck. That's a lot of work over a lot of years and a lot of personal sacrifice on the part of the whole family that drives her to practice and all of those things. It's a big deal. And she's 16 and she celebrated. And they're going to take the title from her and keep her from competing? That's disgusting. Honestly, I'm not sure that anyone should put their kids in school sports in the state of California. It's just heartbreaking.
I mean, you're blowing my whole world. You mean I just can't eat a box of Wheaties cereal and go out and win the 400 meters on this stuff?
Well, Wheaties would like you to think that.
I'm sure they were. No, you bring up an absolutely fantastic point. If you got your kids in California schools, my recommendation is, I don't care what you got to do, pull them out. Besides the education is crap, they pull stuff like this. They're just, I mean, the insanity isn't even a good enough word for this, Susan.
No, it's these self-important, control freak people who are in these power positions and who enjoy tormenting other people because it makes them feel big and powerful. And it's disgusting. And everyone involved in that decision should apologize to her and they should reinstate her.
It's I don't know. The other thing that's coming up is on this is the Trump administration's pulling the $4 billion of federal funds on the bullet train. On that, California's panicking. Newsom's panicking. The California legislature's panicking. They have no money to do the bullet train. It's costed $20 billion. They figure $40 billion. If they complete it in 10 years, as they're talking about the track from Wasco to Merced, they're saying now that's going to cost anywhere from 34 to 38 billion. I know something about construction. In the last 10 years, construction has went up at an annual 10%. That means construction costs are going to double in 7.8 years. That means this thing could potentially, even if they get it done, at best, we're looking at $75 to $85 billion to run the track from Wasco to Merced. Their total, this stuff, and I'm saying the $20 billion they've spent now, we could have built 200, even at the inflated costs of freeway construction in California, we could have built 200 miles of freeway. Not that we don't need any. Traffic is so good out here, Susan.
We're not allowed to have cars. Cars are freedom, and we're not allowed to have freedom. We have to have a train schedule, and you better not want to get anywhere before 2033 because that's the earliest they're going to get it done. This is just, it's so California, and not in a good way. The federal government says that we have conned the federal taxpayer out of $4 billion by pretending to build an 800-mile system, then downsizing it to a 500-mile system, then downsizing it again, then downsizing it a third time, and now it's like 119 miles, and it lands in their words, it goes from nowhere to nowhere. They didn't mince any words on this. The federal government is pulling the money, and the High-Speed Rail Authority has like a week to respond to it, but they're not going to get a dime. And so what's going on in Sacramento, they want to spend, get this, They want to spend $700,000 on a study of how they can raise low taxes to support the bullet train construction going forward. Look out.
Oh, then the other thing to look out for, and kind of has to do with your column this week, environmental regulators harm the poor. Tomorrow at the South Coast going to be a hearing about how to ban water, gas, to heat your home and all this stuff. They've come out with a new regulation or new way to do it. We beat this back almost, I think, a year ago with about 15,000 emails. So retooling this thing coming back. If we don't stop this, and I will guarantee you, but besides the cost of $10,000 to $15,000 to $20,000 to rewire your home, if you got to replace your gas water heater or your forced air heating unit on your home, if you have the average 2,000 square foot home in the wintertime, it's going to cost you between $2,500 and $4,000 a month during the winter to heat your home on electricity. And that's at the current rates before they go up. This is another insane thing. If we don't stop this, and this is how CARB passed the 65 cent a gallon gas tax that'll be coming on starting in a month or so. This is how they're doing it. No vote by the legislature. These shadow agencies that most people never heard of keep doing this to us. It's going to kill California if they let this go, Susan.
This is from Washington. This is something that Donald Trump's administration can stop, because what's happening here is we have these various clean air laws, and they have regulators setting these different standards for these different amounts of pollution. And they may be very much tighter than other countries, which is why industry goes overseas, because they don't have to comply with all of these tighter standards. If the standards are useful, great. But if they're not useful and they're just tightening them because the regulators have nothing else to do, and then everybody has to hit this number that's tighter, what happens is every state has to do a state implementation plan showing how they're going to tighten their own standards to hit the new number. And these regulators are legally obligated to find a way to do it, which is why they're impervious to public opinion. The best you get out of them is a delay, because they have to put something on paper that shows that they're doing this, or the state will supposedly lose highway funds. Now, Donald Trump's not going to pull our highway funds. Joe Biden would have, but Donald Trump is not. So when they do this, there most likely will be a lawsuit, and it will have a very different outcome than it would have had if Biden had still been president, because Trump doesn't see it this way. He can change these EPA standards. He can fire these regulators. He can repeal these rules, and he can undo the pressure for these changes, which are what is driving these insane things in California.
I hope that's our safety valve in this whole thing, like it may be. Hopefully it will be in the bullet train. Tony Strickland was in the Senate Assembly, just got back in there after a brief stint at the Huntington Beach City Council. That's what he's saying. He's saying, cut the bullet train, all that money of that. Let's, cut it. Why can't we just get some sanity in California? Okay, cut our losses now at $20 billion on the bullet train. We can't get that back, but we're just rescinding the whole project. Let's do something insane. Stop doing something insane. Let's do something insane. Let's start building some roads, some water projects, so nuclear power plants, so we can get the cost of everything down, Susan.
Exactly. If this was the 1960s and Governor Pat Brown was in office, we'd be running the whole state on clean, safe nuclear power. We'd have unlimited water from desalination. That was a guy who wanted to build things, and he wanted civilization. And the current government has really been like this since the 70s. This is the environmental movement brought to its logical conclusion, which is the end of human civilization. That's what those people want. They are like nihilists, and they want no houses, and they want no heating, and they want no transportation, and all they want is for the milk veg plant to live undisturbed in Topanga Canyon. And, the rest of us don't want that. We want air conditioning. We want cars. We want jobs. We want a better standard of living for our kids. This environmental radicalism has come to its logical conclusion, I think, And it has to be really, we have to have a reckoning where we say this much and no more.
You bring up the point. I mean, Zuck the Cluck up there is investing, Bezos is investing in nuclear power because they're saying we're going to need that just to run AI, just for what they're doing in AI, not to mention if we go electric cars or water heaters or any of this stuff. This is something I said we should have, as Pat Brown started in the 60s, and we stopped with Diablo and San Onofre, which is now off grid, and tore down. We should take that bullet train money. One of the things we should start doing is building nuclear power plants, big ones, not these little ones, big ones from San Diego to Eureka. I mean, I want to see one every half a mile. Electricity would be so cheap. It would cost you more to walk over in time to turn the light off than leaving it on, Susan.
Well, that's one solution. I think natural gas is clean. I think that's fine. Huge strides in environmental standards for natural gas. I think we could run the whole state on natural gas. If people don't want to do that, nuclear is an option. We can do all of it. And we can do desalination the way Israel does it. And we could have unlimited water for our farms and our cities. And we wouldn't be destroying the Delta and the other things that people worry about in that area. We could do that. Why don't we do that? Because we keep getting stopped by idiotic regulations like the Coastal Commission, which stopped a desalination plant on the grounds that what if there's climate change? What if there's a tsunami? It won't withstand the tsunami. That's why they stopped it. This is craziness. And so people in Orange County who would have had water from this project don't have it, and they'll be paying more to have water from wherever they get it, and then they'll get these horrible notices in their bill saying you use too much water. It doesn't have to be like this.
Their logic is you better not get out of bed in the morning because you might slip and fall and hit your head on the side of the bed, suffer a basal skull fracture, and you will be dead. That's their logic in shutting down the desalinization. They're letting the perfect stand in the way of the greater good, Susan.
They are, and they're just looking for reasons to stop everything at the Coastal Commission. They're looking for reasons, and they find them, they make them up, and nobody can overrule them, and this is very bad.
1,000%. I mean, the absolute insanity. We had the guy on from Williams Company back east, which is like SoCal Gas out here. New York State is saying, hey, we need to build more natural gas fired generators because in order to sustain the economy we have right now, much less do AI, we got to start generating more electricity. We're running out of electricity all across the grid from coast to coast, not just California. At the current rate we're using it, not much less expanding it. We expand it. I think you're right. That's their plan. They want 90% of us dead, Susan, I think.
Well, you know what? If they did, it wouldn't look too different. So this is concerning because we're not going to die and we're not going to give up and we're not going to give up California. And there is AI. AI is probably not going to be happening so much in California because of the cost of electricity here. I've been reading that it makes more sense to do things in Arkansas because they have the lowest cost of electricity in the country. So what are we doing here? We're driving businesses out, old businesses, new businesses, all businesses. We're driving them out of the state. And then what sustains people? Welfare and minimum wage laws. And minimum wage laws, of course, just make everything worse because people make more money, but everything is higher priced as a result of it, so nobody's ahead. And this is not a solution. A solution is to stop the damaging policies that are causing the problems. That's the solution.
That's a 1,000%. We need to stop the damaging policies. We need to pay more attention to all of our elections, from sewer cleaning commissioner to governor to president, all that stuff. If we don't do that, we wind up with what we have. We're looking at a humongous gas price increase over these policies. Like you said, who's gonna even hire the minimum wage jobs if companies cannot survive in California because the cost of electricity and everything else is so high? It's absolutely mind-boggling to what's going on. Got about a minute left. Tell them why they should join HJTA Go.
Well, we are really excited this year because we're going to do a new initiative that we're calling Save Prop 13, and you can find it online, saveprop13.com. We are going to close that loophole that's making it easier to raise your taxes. The loophole that says if it's a citizen's initiative, it doesn't need a 2/3 vote or anything because the Constitution doesn't apply. So we're closing the loophole with this new initiative. Signature collection will start this summer, but you can sign up right now to get the petition at saveprop13.com and be a member of the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. Strengthen your voice in California politics. HJTA.org.
Thanks for being on, Susan. We'll do it again next week.
Thank you, Roy.
Susan Shelley, Vice President of Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association and columnist extraordinaire for the Southern California News Group. It's vitally critical. As we would say, this is a, Valley Girl deal, critical to the max. That we pay attention. Again, we stop this insane policy that's going to be debated tomorrow at the California South Coast Air Quality Management District, Southern California and Diamond Bar. Again, get the emails in, attend the Zoom meeting, attend in person if you can. Because, as they say, your future is going to depend on it. You know, like I said, and it's no joke. I mean, it is kind of a funny. But not only electricity, the world we know it runs on energy. And if you don't have any, you're going to be in a heap of trouble, boy, as they say. So a foghorn leghorn would say, "You understand me, boys?" He slaps you across the head. Of course, in today's world, everybody would, "Oh, you can't do that. What a violent cartoon." Jeez. What a bunch of sissies we've become. We'll roll through some of the local stories and genre. Coming forth, earthquake hits Idlewild, 3.6 preliminary magnitude, strikes Idlewild, being that it was in the mountain area. I didn't hear anybody panicking or say they heard it, but we haven't had a rash of these 3.5 to 4.5s around Southern California. I wonder if the big one's going to happen, and half of California falls into the ocean. We might be oceanfront property here in the IE in not too long. More vagrant encampments in Hemet, as posted on Eddie George's Action Eye News. Resident alert, SQAMD plans to raise your cost of living, and you deserve to know. That was by our IE State Senator, Rosalie Ochoa-Bowe. Of that, again, get out there, get those emails in, do that, let them know before they pass that stupid bill. Redlands Touch a Truck event planned for June 14th. There's a car crashing into a Fontana business that was on the Inland Wire. Commuter alert in Corona. Heads up to the people in there. Daniel Park, 32, of Kent, Washington, was arrested Tuesday night at JFK Airport after he was deported from Poland. He's the one that was the second arrested in the Palm Springs bombing. Maybe you're too short. They're short-handed at the San Jacinto Sheriff Station as they posted the funny of their people don't go in a panic. Used to be crazy, but how LA's trendiest street fell into decline. Don't let that happen in the IE. There's Eddie George, again on Action Eye News, reported on the lightning strike that caught a Hemet home on fire. Safe and sane fireworks may be banned in San Bernardino County where they are legal. That'll be an interesting Corona crime blotter report coming up. Actually, they were pretty good. If they're going to have a vacancy in the Public Works Advisory Committee in the great state of Harupa Valley, Barstow Unified has led a long and sordid history of allowing sexual predators to molest kids in their schools. Lawyers file claim in the district alleging sexually assaulted students as $2 million verdict is reached. Thomas Eugene Strevell, 73, pleaded not guilty to 3 felony counts. His brother says Strevell would not have acted on them. He was accused of threatening Donald J. Trump, our esteemed president. Rancho Sea cops are participating in the law enforcement torch run for Special Olympics. A good job there. There's the Barstow story again. We just did that. Lake Elsinore cops last night while you were snoozing, they were cruising and caught some bad guys out there. So good job, Lake Elsinore cops. Chino cops got a retail theft deal. I'm going to say, they say you can't post booking photos. Why do you have to blank out their faces when you're not posting a booking photo? We need to get these ones on there. Barricaded Banning man is in custody after he was accused of domestic violence. Why do a lot of these guys have the same look? Just a question. Progress made in 6-month-old murder case in Moval. 2 were arrested. You see there. Army surpasses recruiting goal for 4 months ahead of schedule. I wonder why. Could it happen to be because Trump is El Presidente? No. That'll do it for today, but as we usually say at this time, mandatory you're back here in 23 hours. Why? You're the best darn show in the whole wide world. Until then, see ya.
All right, have a great night.
You got it.